Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Lucky.
My name is Shanika.
And today we've got some wonderful guests with us.
I'm Octavia.
And I'm Kunda.
Oh yes, and we're gonna be having a wonderful debate today.
Check out our channel, KO Debate, in the description.
Oh yes, and today we're gonna be having a discussion/debate.
So yeah, these guys actually have a debate channel, and so that's mainly what they post on their channel. So we thought actually, why not bring them onto this channel so we can actually have a discussion with them. So today's discussion, we are going to be looking at what is the best use of your money. Should you spend your money on having a wonderful wedding, or should you use that same amount of money instead to put down a deposit for a house, get a mortgage, and then potentially have a wedding later down the line, or a smaller wedding?
So for us personally, we got married last year and we spent our money on our wedding.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We spent our money on our wedding instead of getting a mortgage, and yeah, now we're saving for a mortgage.
What about you guys? What's your circumstances?
So we're not married yet. We're engaged.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, we're engaged, and we had this discussion amongst ourselves where we actually had a mini debate between us.
Yeah, we had this discussion in the beginning, before even the engagement happened.
Yeah, we were like, do we want to have like a big wedding and spend because we know weddings could be expensive, and I know you guys have released some videos where you've spoken about the budget.
Yeah.
Weddings are expensive.
They really are.
So it kind of like, unless you're someone who's been saving for a very long time, like maybe you're in your 30s and now you have enough money to do both at the same time, you have to kind of decide, do I want to get married first, or do I want to buy a house? And for us, we decided to buy a house first, just because it was more important for us that we lay down that foundation, because that's what we're going to be living and raising our children. And the wedding is important, obviously, but sometimes I feel personally that there's a little bit of pressure to have this big elaborate wedding. There's so many things. Maybe I'm on social media too much, but it just seems everyone is having. I am. But everyone has these amazing weddings, and I'm not gonna lie, I watch it and I'm like, oh man, I want to have a wedding like that. They're dancing and everyone comes out and I'm like, I want a wedding like that too. But then you look at the price and it's like, I could buy a house with this money. I could legit buy a house. And the thing as well with me is I like the finer things in life. It's good to know. So
that's the truth, isn't it?
Yeah.
The truth is the truth.
Yeah, the truth is the truth. So yeah, it just kind of having to decide then between the two of you which one you want. It's a very important discussion to have, I think. But yeah, that's the route we basically decided to take.
Yeah, and also when you buy, the main thing why we decided to go this way is when you buy a house, that's a long-term investment. So we're thinking okay, if we buy a property for this type of price as a new buyers, we could actually, if we manage to finish the payment, the mortgage, let's say in 10 years or 12 years time, we can actually, as the first buyers, we can actually maybe rent that house out, and then we buy our before we buy our main one. You get what I'm saying? And then a wedding, we can still save up for the wedding. You get what I'm saying? Well, we can get married, but obviously it's gonna be a registry type of situation. And then maybe in the same year, or maybe in March the following year, you get what I'm saying? Then have that type of wedding. But that was a hard discussion, because obviously she was like, I don't think I'll feel the same way when I'd rather have the wedding immediately. Do you get what I'm saying? So these are the things that we had to come to a conclusion and have a discussion about what made more to us.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I remember when we had that discussion as well, and I was shocked. I thought, Lucky's gonna have that same viewpoint as me. And similar to you guys, we had the discussion way before we got engaged, and I think that's the first time I realised, oh my gosh, we actually see things differently. Because I just thought he was going to be yeah, of course we'll buy a house. Why would you spend the money that you could spend buying a house on a wedding? I just thought he was gonna, and he was like, no, I'd rather have the wedding. And I was like, hey.
What was your reasoning for that?
My general reason for that was that I felt like we're not rushing anywhere, we're not going anywhere. Let's do first things first. Let's get married, we'll get the house. And I trust that God was going to provide what we need to get a house in the future. I just wanted to do things in a normal order, what I felt was the normal order, which was get married, and then after marriage, we will get the property, because we're earning the same money now. We're still gonna save the same amount in 5 years' time. So why?
Yeah, but the thing is, like prior to marriage,
Yeah.
you don't. In most people's situations, they don't have that commitment of paying rent.
Mm.
So, of course, you know, we are doing it this way, so we're gonna have to do it this way.
Yeah.
But the whole idea now is that we have so much cash loss every month. Do you know what I mean?
It's temporary. That's how I say it. I say it's a temporary thing. It might be okay. We're gonna have cash flow for 3-4 years. Fine, that's fine. I'll rather take that and rather than getting a house first and then not be able to get the wedding I want to get, because for us, I just wanted us to have that wedding. And now that we've had the wedding, we can now start saving. We can save
Also, just similar to Octavia's point, I think as much as there is pressure to have this big wedding, I think there's also pressure to have that house. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's a bit of both, especially for young people. It's kind of like, okay, like, yeah, great, we want to get married, but I also want to get on a property ladder. And then there's this like tension. Which one should I go for? How should I do it? All of these sort of things. So I think this discussion is just useful for people who like don't know what to do, looking at the different pros and cons. And I think also, like, just to say that even though we've done it this way where we're renting first, we actually didn't have that like, we wasn't like, I didn't want to do that basically whereas he did, sort of thing. And so I think we had to walk through this journey of being like, okay, how do we compromise, if that makes sense.
I wanted to actually say like reasons why I think it was a bit of a struggle, and like when they were saying, one of the reasons why I struggled as well with this, even though I was an advocate for buying a house first. The problem is, like, because you are, as Christians, we don't want to live together without being married, right? So we're now going to have a small registry wedding and then like a year later have a proper wedding. But then it's like, for me, will I feel the same? Like, after a year, am I going to want to spend money on a wedding?
Honestly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like a part of me is going to be like, when that year comes, I'll be like, you know what, let's just go on holiday.
Like, we're married now. Like,
we're already married. And the thing is,
you said that as well, didn't you?
and that's one of the things I would say, like, why I would have had the marriage first. I mean, in an ideal world, I would have money for both, but I don't. So, like, in that situation, I would understand why you'd want the marriage first, because, like, the marriage is nice, especially if you're from a big family. You want to like have everyone involved. Like, you know, I think you probably had quite a big family, both of you. Your wedding was really beautiful. Like, it was everything. Like, you know, the dancing and everything. It was like the ideal wedding, you know. But then it's like, then you come home. And you're, were you guys already had the house before you moved, or did you?
Yeah, so we got this like a few weeks. I think we moved in about 2 weeks or so before the wedding. So I was in a position where I've been renting for like 3 years anyway. Okay. So I moved here in that for those 2 weeks.
I mean, in that case, it works, because like then it's like, I was thinking, what happens after the marriage? Like, do you go and stay in someone's family house, like, and then wait until you get like, and that's what like a lot of Asian families do, and it works for them because obviously they can save money because they're just living at home. And if you have a big enough house, I guess, but personally, I wouldn't want to do that. But like, it works for some people. But yeah, like, it just makes sense to me logically to have like a home. And if it is the case, like I've kind of convinced myself now, like, I do want a big wedding. I do, because I do watch a lot of those videos, and I do also think like, oh, I want that. I want that too. And don't feel pressured. Obviously, if it's not within your budget, don't do it. Like, don't get debt.
minus 1,000.
Don't go and get debt.
200,000.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people do actually, like, they're trying to live up with the Joneses, and they're like, oh, I need to have, because weddings are expensive, like, so expensive. But yeah, like,
they're beautiful, but you know what I'm saying, it's beautiful to have a wedding, but just make sure you plan it the right way. We're not saying that doing it the first time is wrong. It's definitely not wrong. If it makes sense for both of you guys, you can start like that. Obviously we started the way we started it. At the beginning, I was actually thinking like Lucky, so I could have gone inside, but obviously she stood her ground, and then we had to have a very intense discussion of why this wedding won't happen, why it has to happen like the following time. So then she opened my mind. I was like, okay, let's consider this way and try to do it the following year. Do you get what I'm saying? So I just feel like it depends. What sort of conversations both parties have. It doesn't mean that you guys shouldn't be together or shouldn't break up because of that.
That
you just trying to find.
But then that's also the risk as well. It's like, imagine you decide to get a house together, and then at some point before the marriage you break up. What happens then?
But you're already married, right?
No, before you get married, as in you buy the house and then maybe you're engaged. You're not even living in the house, and then you break up before you get married.
Oh.
But that can happen even if you're married.
I know, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's a bigger risk of that happening when you're before you're married than after you're married. So I feel like there's that risk there.
Yeah, so you have to kind of like secure the marriage situation first
and then
before
when
you
you
invest into
But-
other
because
things.
having something like a house is something that's solid.
Yeah, it's a
very
long-term
strong-
investment,
So
yeah.
you can't just do that. I feel like put that ring on the finger and then do that.
Yeah.
Even if, like I say, you do a registry marriage or something cheaper, that's fine. But my key thing is that you must get married first. I think that's why I wanted, and if we get married, we might as well do it properly. That was my mindset. I was like, we must get married first before we get the house. And if it means that we spend everything on the wedding,
At
fine.
least you're contractual.
I think it's there. It's like
I've secured her. She's not going anywhere.
You ain't going anywhere, fam.
you're secured with the contractual, you know what I'm saying, elements.
That was the feeling behind my decisions. Like, we need to get married
Yeah.
first. Like,
And I get that.
that's number one. Once we're married,
You can do anything.
I'm somebody that's always had that feeling that money will come. I always have that belief that God will always make a way for us to get that money. We're gonna get a mortgage, we'll get it. It might take 2-3 years, but we'll get it. But I just wanted to get that one out of the way, and that's it. Again,
But also, just to say, I think this is really to do with affordability as well, because we're obviously in a position where, by the grace of God, we actually have enough to pay rent and save. For some people, that might not really be their situation. You can get 2 working people, but it is just going to be a very kind of difficult for them to pay rent and save and work and pay bills. Do you know what I mean? Like, so
Then
I
do a
think.
wedding, yeah.
Yeah, so for some people it just might make more sense to with what they've saved up beforehand to just go and get that house, if that makes sense, because you have to think about those steps. Okay, if we spend, let's say someone was able to save 25k before they got married because they're living at home, etc. Am I still going to be able to do that after, when, because rents, especially we're living in London, rents in London are not cheap. So you just have to really think about what am I going to have left over after as well. Like, and I think maybe we did kind of put that into consideration. Like, is it still going to be possible the other way around? So
Have you also like thought about, you know, in terms of like renting, how long is it going to take you before you get to your goal, and then at the same time, at what point do you want children? Like, are you planning to have children whilst still renting?
we cannot answer because family will be watching.
Oh yeah, that's something I suppose you have to also consider,
Oh, yeah,
right?
we've
Like,
already-
are
It's
you
so
gonna
true.
like
Yeah.
because do you want to? Because especially if you're renting in like a flat, for example, do you want your kids to like have a garden? Like, are you gonna rent in that type of environment? Like, do you know what I mean?
that's really true. There's so
Schools
many
and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's so much things you have to consider that
Yes.
are included in the affordability side of this conversation, if that makes sense. So now we're talking about children, so then you're also talking about contraception, you're also talking about, you know, what age does someone want to give birth, like for you and your family. Please do not undermine the pressure of family wanting you to conceive. Don't that pressure is real. You get it? So even you and your partner, you'll be like, no, it's fine, we're gonna rent, we'll give ourselves 5 years. Your mother-in-law might not even be able to wait 5 years. You get it? Like, and I don't know, there's so much to consider.
Might
You're
just
so
give you
right.
6 months of grace, and then after that, when is the baby coming?
You're like, 9 months have passed, you're not pregnant. It's like, please.
So I think that is something you have to consider then if you decide to rent first.
So true.
But like at the same time, I don't know, because like renting it depends. Like if you're renting, it depends actually, because like some people, they do tend to like buy a house like beforehand before they're even engaged and whatever.
Yeah,
A lot
like
of
when
people
they're
do that.
single.
Yeah, they rent and buy
When
a
you're
house
single, it's
together.
something, but when you're in a relationship
It's a
and then
different
you
topic.
get a house, but
No,
without
but-
No, as in like people when they're not married,
Yeah. But
they live
might buy a
together.
house together,
Oh.
live together,
Oh,
and then when they get married, they're already
But
in
then
the
that's
house.
the
Oh,
risk,
okay.
though. It's like,
Yeah, that's a big commitment to make
Yeah.
before you marry someone.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
a
risk.
Yeah, it's a big risk, but at the same time, like I think there's like 2 things I wanted to say about that. So first of all, if you are in a relationship with someone and you buy a house and something happens and then that makes you break up, that means that you and that person should not have been getting married in the first place, because you mean you can't sort out this issue. What about that person is causing you to now break up? Do you know what I mean? Like, you think when you get married you're not gonna have these issues. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to, if you don't know how to work through things at the beginning before you're married, then you know that person was not the one. Thank God that this situation happened and this is the case. But then the other thing is like people like getting married, living together before they get married, like buying a house before they get married. I do actually want to know what you guys' views on like living with someone before you get married to them, because I know you guys didn't live together before you got married, right? And I mean, we're not either, but I've had a lot of, like, I've spoken to a lot of my friends about it, and they're like, it's very important that you live with someone before you get married. You need to know about the different things they do and all that stuff. And I have kind of been like, oh, like, because it's a bit scary, because, you know, especially if you're used to your own space, you know, and you've never seen what the person looks like when they wake up in the morning. And then you wake up on your wedding night and you're just like, who the hell is this? Like,
Wow.
you know what I mean? It's like, what is your view on that?
I think those concerns that you've raised, they're genuine concerns. People do, I feel like that. I feel like when we got married, we did begin to realize things about our characters, how we react, how we sleep, for example, things like that. Things that definitely something that will happen when you're married. But for me, we see it from a Christian perspective. It's like if you decide to live with your boyfriend or girlfriend, there's chances that things are gonna happen. It's like you can't. It's very, if you love them and you're attracted to them, you live in the same house, you're punishing yourself. That's what I would say. It's like you will not be able to do that for a long time and then stay sane. So I feel like if you're a Christian, don't do it. Don't put yourself in that fire. You're going to burn.
But also, I think if you are a Christian, personally, I think that like your marriage is a commitment. So personally, you don't need to be doing test run or let me live with him and give him trial, this, that, and the other, because the whole idea is you're committing to that person with all of their mess, by the way, which everybody has. So when that thing comes up in marriage, you deal with it. You get it's not the idea that, oh yeah, so when I do my after 12 months, no, I don't like the way you do this and that, so I don't want to be with you.
Or you sleep in one corner.
You
don't sleep in the middle.
I don't work with that whole idea of, oh, it's very important. Why is it important? What's important about it? Like you can find out so much without living with someone. Go to their house. I knew what this guy was going to be like. I spent so much time in his house. I just was preparing myself. I said, this one is not going to work when we get married. We're not doing that when we get married. Do you get it? Like, so I hear that, but I don't feel like it's enough for me to be convinced that that's what I should be doing personally. If you want to marry someone, you have the understanding that is till death do us part. So why do you? What difference does it make?
It means you're gonna get through anything that comes.
Exactly.
So,
like, you can't say you love someone, but they're too messy, so I don't want to be with them.
You know,
if they're too messy, you already know they were too messy. Like, if a messy person, you know we're messy.
Exactly.
They're not gonna hide their mess.
I mean, if you don't see their house, because sometimes people, there are some women, you know, they look nice on the outside, they come out, you think, oh, this woman's so cool, and you go into their room and you're like, Lord Jesus.
It's so true.
It's like,
so true.
Yeah, but you still know, you still find out.
Yeah, there are ways to find out without living with them.
Eventually you find out, you know, maybe they put their first time on this side. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, what's that there? What is that thing there? Do you get what I'm saying?
I think,
Because if you're playing a role, you can only play to a certain. I believe, if you're really lying about yourself, who you are, you can only do that to a certain extent. Soon you forget your
yourself
role.
as well.
Yeah, you forget your role. You know what I'm saying?
Because if the person sees the real you, then will they still stay?
Exactly. How long are you gonna keep up with that? Doing that?
Yeah. One thing I think was really important is that I didn't really think about it before, was the idea of what you were saying about. I think you were saying it's about things like when you do get married, you're renting. What if kids come straight away? How do you deal with that? I never thought of that, but these are things that actually are very, very important that you can actually need to
think
evaluate before you get married. And maybe this can be a reason why people let's get a house, we'll get married.
You have that sense of stability.
So, if anything happens and then the baby pops up straight away, that's like, at least we
and
have to start now.
You have to consider as well, like, the location where you guys want to be for a long period of time.
True.
So you consider what schools are around. Is it the area that both of you like? Do you get what I'm saying? She wanted to take me to the hood, but I was like, nah, we're not gonna leave there.
It was not there.
You know what I'm saying?
All of those things are part of that discussion. Like, and you might not even realize it. Do you know what I mean? It might just be, oh, I just want to do this, but then it will impact all of those things.
But I do think though that like social media does play a big part. Like, you are constantly seeing these weddings, these glamorous
that's what social media
things.
is for. It's supposed to that's an advertisement.
Yeah, but I think it's like in this day and age, like it's just constantly there. Like it's just there all the time, and you feel like if I don't have and you feel like if I don't have this wedding, then you know it doesn't look as like I look bad. I don't look as if I have enough money. I look as if you know kind of thing. And as bad as that is, I feel like most people have that. Like it's like you're constantly trying to keep up to the standard that you see. Oh, this friend of mine had this wedding. She had 10,000 people. Okay, I'm gonna have 15,000 people.
Yeah.
Like,
so I feel like
in
this day and age, if for example what you're saying, most people are thinking like that.
Yeah.
Just like comparing. There's a lot of comparisons to what other people have had and stuff like that. So it's like, what are we aiming for? Are we aiming for happiness, or what are we aiming to be content with what we got? I'm not saying that I'm not saying that be content with average. No one wants to be content with average. We want to be content with world class, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, if you're always on social media trying to look at what other people have done and blah blah blah, it's like, even if you had that big wedding that you survived within yourself, you're gonna see something else who's done something bigger. And then be like, oh, I wish I did that. Yeah. And then you tell your husband that, I wish I did that. Then how is it gonna make me feel?
Yeah. Spend all the money.
Do you get what I'm saying? Then it's gonna feel like, what the hell? That's like, you know what I mean?
As you're saying, I think
so we need to control what we're feeding and what we're looking at.
I think you need to know what is important to you as a person. Forget what whoever's following you thinks. What's important to you, and then from there, go after that, if that makes sense. Like, because I think another part of this question is like, okay, majority of wedding, I think I should have googled it. Okay, let me google what's the average cost of a wedding in the UK. So as you can see here, it says the average cost of a wedding is 31,974. Let's just say 32k. So I think generally we assume that most people are spending maybe between 20 and 30 on their wedding, but actually there's a variety of people that spend 10k or less. So I think this, what we're talking about, reality, unless you live like north of England, the discussion around like, should I spend the money on a wedding or a mortgage, may not even apply to you if your budget doesn't match the price that a deposit would have been. You get it? So I think there's also that assumption, because some people's wedding you would never have known they were so cheap. Like, I don't even know what skills they have, but you just would never have known. Like,
but yeah, I think like you mentioned about like sometimes you might not even have the money to buy the house anyway. So then you don't really have the choice. Honestly. Now it's just either you want to spend the whole amount of your savings on your wedding, or you just top up your savings and get a house 2 years later.
Honestly.
But that's something that the two of you are gonna have to decide.
But society definitely does impact. The way the society is working right now is like, we always have to compare against each other, and like someone doing better than
social media.
Because of social media.
Do you know what I'm saying? Oh, you don't have this type of house, but this person is in this type of house, and then you don't even know how they got it. Or
this is what I'm saying.
Do you know what I'm saying?
You have no idea. That's the thing with social media. They don't give us the backstory. They just show us when they've got there. So you don't know. You're just gonna now speculate. Okay, how can I do what they did? Do you know what I mean? But I think for me, it's just really important to be so confident in who you are and what you want in life. Like, because with social media, we've got so used to people telling us how we should do things or commenting on our lifestyle, this, that, and the other. If you know who you are, all of that is noise. Did you get it? Like, it actually doesn't matter. Like, we should be seeking like validation from people who care about us, who know our story, who value us, who could even potentially help us get to where we want to be. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to people that are just sitting on their sofa, like. So
it's true.
For me, I would say that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter which one you do first.
I agree with you.
I feel like as long as you both agree, you are peaceful about the decision you're making, and you have a plan. But for me, I would still say that at least it's good for you to do the registration, whatever, as a Christian, do the registration, buy the house, but do the registration at least. At least when you're living together, at least you're married, you're living peacefully. You can enjoy the joys of marriage peacefully. So I feel like, it is good to do either, but I'm happy in the choice that we've made, that we've decided to get married first and then look towards mortgage. What some people might do, they might decide to get married much later. That means they can save enough for both. And also from you guys' perspective, what you guys have done, how do you feel? What do you think about it? I think for me, I would say that it's also very good that you guys have decided to do this. It's also quite clever. You thought about it thoroughly, and you've planned it very well. That okay, we get the house, we're gonna get married soon, and then we can move in.
That's so true. I feel like one thing that I was so impressed is the fact that you actually have a solid plan. Because sometimes it can kind of be like, okay, we'll get the house, we're married, and then we'll think about it. And it's like, that's cool, but having a plan just helps.
Yes.
So when even if anyone's kind of bringing pressure or they're asking you why did you do this and that, you know what to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
And I think like this is a little bit off topic, but it helps that Kunda and I have this a bit of a long distance relationship because we're talking all the time.
Yeah.
And because we talk about everything, we can say like, okay, so what's the issue here? What could happen there? And we talk about these things, and I think it's so important that when you're in a relationship, communication is key. Like, it's key in a relationship. You have to think about all these things, and I think like this video is really good because like if you and your partner are like sitting there and you're thinking which one do you want to do first, like it's going to take us longer, because I mean like you said, some people they can just date, you know, just date until you save enough to get both at the same time. That's fine. Personally, I couldn't do that because I was at the point now we're living away from each other. We don't get to see each other often, and it's really hard not being able to see and be with the person you love. So waiting another 5 years was just not something I wanted to do. Not what we wanted to do.
No, that's long.
But if you're like neighbours or something, you can just pop down the road and see each other. Then all right, like wait 5 years, save for money for both, and do this thing at the same time. But
yeah, I agree with you guys. I feel like as long as you have a plan, like our plan is to obviously do a registry in a house, but that time we'll be able to move into the house. And obviously you guys decided to do what you did. It's working out for you. You guys seem to be happy, and, you know what I'm saying? And you've decided that later on, in a few years' time, you're gonna invest in a house. So you still have a plan. Do you get what I'm saying? And you keep as long as you keep consistent, working hard to that plan. As God will always reward you. As long as you do it, you know, the right way.
That's true. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining us on this. My favorite Chelsea fan. So guys, hope you've enjoyed this and given you something to think about, to discuss it with your friends, and even have a debate. Which one do you think? Comment below what you think. Which one would you go for, and why? It's always, as long as you know your why behind it, I think it's good. And again, where can we find you on social media? On YouTube?
KO Debate
on YouTube. KYC Tell them on Instagram. Is it like Tavia?
Tavia _Tay.
Okay, so do find them, and they've got very interesting debates, and you definitely gonna learn something from them. Until next time, guys, take care, stay blessed.
Bye.
Bye.